This is the Financial News Network. I'm Christy Duffy. The world's largest software company reporting earnings Thursday. Microsoft booting up for its fiscal year 2011 and beating expectations in the company's first quarter. Net income is $5.4 billion, 62 cents per share, over consensus expectations of 55 cents. Revenue coming in stronger than consensus as well at $16.2 billion. Discussing Microsoft with me is Colin Gillis of BGC Capital. Colin, how did the quarter compare against your own expectations?
So, this is a strong quarter out of Microsoft. It's actually fitting because they posted, upside revenue and EPS on founder Bill Gates' 55th birthday. So we titled our earnings review, Bill's Big Birthday Beat.
What was the largest revenue driver?
So, let's just break it down segment by segment because it's worth going through the various drivers. If you think about their Office 2010 and their business division, that was the largest revenue segment. It was 32% of total. It grew about 16% year over year. This is a business that's generating north of $5 billion in revenue in the quarter. And, the Office 2010 refresh cycle is going to be continuing. It was just launched in June for the next several quarters. They're also doing a pretty good job of moving customers into the cloud and having cloud-based solutions. I think we saw the recent win with New York City as examples of that. That's 100,000 users in the city of New York, including 30,000 users that will be accessing Microsoft's products, including Office, via the cloud. In terms of Windows, which was the next biggest driver for results, that was about $4.8 billion in revenue for the quarter. That grew about 5% sequentially and 30% of total. The Windows 7 continues to be the core driver of that result, and we're in the middle of an enterprise refresh cycle as people are moving from XP and to a lesser degree Vista onto Windows 7. And that refresh cycle, the company indicated, is going to continue for the rest of its fiscal year. And so that's a big catalyst remaining for the company as well.
How about its consumer business? Did we see any improvement there?
So, the consumer marketplace is still sluggish, on the PC side, and this is one of the things that people can point to as a negative for Microsoft, and that they don't have a tablet product that's out there, and that their efforts in the mobile space, still are somewhat nascent with their new Windows Phone 7 operating system that's just been launched, and it's a bit late there. But let's sit back and think about, okay, we've got the core horses of Windows 7 and Office 2010, right? And then what other businesses does Microsoft have? Well, its servers and tools business is actually quite a profitable and lucrative business. And then on the emerging front, you've got, Xbox is one of the top-selling console, or was the top-selling console in the quarter. And their search engine, Bing, now has a dominant second position in the marketplace since it's consolidated in Yahoo next to Google. So that's a pretty good position to be in. So the company is doing a decent job of protecting its core businesses, right? Which again is Office and Windows. Building up its next growth drivers, which is its consumer-facing gaming products, Xbox, and the new Kinect controller that's going to be coming out for the holiday season. That's a motion-sensing, controllerless device, as well as search. Right, we just touched on that, and then trying to get ready for the disruption that's going to be happening as we move to cloud services.
So a strong quarter. You did touch on one point of weakness for the company. Can you point out any other weak spots for Microsoft?
No, I think the thing that we would highlight to people is that Microsoft is a company that, for people who like to invest based on cash flows, is certainly worth looking at. We recommend Apple for growth investors, and we recommend Microsoft for yield-seeking investors. Right? So they recently increased their dividend to 16 cents a quarter, up from 13 cents. So it's a 23% lift. It gives you a yield of about 2.5%. That compares to the S&P 500 yield of about 1.9%. So that's favorable. It's about the top one-third of companies there. And they do an excellent job of returning the cash that they generate to shareholders. So in the quarter, we had a record $8.2 billion in cash from operations, and it's just that's really a pretty big number. And of that 8.2, they returned 5.4 billion to investors via the dividend and also share repurchase activity. And actually, if you break that down, it's about 1.4 billion for the dividend and 4 billion in share repurchasing. So you can see that there is still room for the company to continue to lift that dividend, which it tends to review on an annual basis.
And you mentioned Windows Phone 7. That product launched in Europe and Asia. How are sales of the product looking there?
It's really just coming out, right? The thing that we would suggest on Windows Phone 7 is, it will be the classic Microsoft case of, they're in this market for good, and they're going to continue to advertise heavily and just chip away and get their brand out there. An important component to Windows Phone 7 that many people don't focus on is that if you are a handset maker and you license Windows Phone 7, Microsoft gives you indemnification of the intellectual property that is used in the operating system. And so that is a difference from Android and some of the other free operating systems that are out there. And so as intellectual property protection lawsuits increase in this area because the market is so valuable, that's an advantage that the company has.
And it's coming to the U.S. November 8th. Can you offer any guidance or an outlook on U.S. sales?
Here's the thing, right? I mean, anytime we don't expect to see lines wrapping around the block for people to buy Windows Phone 7 devices, like you do for when Apple rolls out a device. But it will be, we'll have to see how the marketplace accepts it. We know it's a good product. I've used it. I've seen it. The reviews are favorable, and now it's just an issue of the blocking and tackling of marketing and execution. But the thing we would highlight to people is, don't get too concerned about the initial phone sales, right? Because the core drivers of the company, right, which are Office and Windows, continue to excel and to produce record cash flows.
CFO Peter Klein said the company had not seen an adverse effect on sales of computers running Windows because of Apple's popular iPad tablet device. But how is Microsoft preparing itself to stay competitive in the growing tablet market?
So again, I think it's we want to put that in perspective, right? Apple sold a little bit more than 7 million tablets since it's been launched, right? Well, Microsoft sold 240 million licenses of Windows 7. So it's about tablet market there, about 3% of the licenses that Microsoft has sold since it's launched Windows 7 in about a year. So tablets are important, still very small, and I think the way they're going to compete is you're going to see Windows 7 running on a tablet. There's no reason Windows 7 can't be, modified to a tablet form factor, right? So just like you run Windows 7 on a PC and on a laptop, or various other computers, it could be modified to run on a tablet, and I expect to see some of those coming out next year.
Okay, Colin, and Microsoft shares are down 14% so far this year. They rose near 2% in after-hours trade yesterday. Where do you see the stock heading?
We have a price target of $30, and if you go back and you look, one of the things about Microsoft is that it's been stuck in a range, bouncing between sort of $20 and $30 for a decade, and that's been a source of frustration for Microsoft investors, and that's why if you're going to be investing in it, you want to consider the yield and the dividend that it pays, and that's one of the primary ways of reaping profits from owning it, as well as capital gains. So we think $30 is a reasonable target, and that would be the upper end of its range.
Thank you, Colin.
Sure, no problem.
For further updates on earnings, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. This is the Financial News Network. I'm Christy Duffy.